Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to do something a little weird.
Okay.
Right now, wherever you are, unless you're, talking to someone, which might make this awkward,
Yeah.
take your tongue and run along the back of your bottom teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Just feel the arch of your jaw. Do you feel a permanent retainer glued back there?
Mhm.
Did you spend your teenage years suffering through braces or, God forbid, headgear?
Oh, with a headgear.
Did you have your wisdom teeth yanked out because the dentist said there simply wasn't enough room in your mouth?
If you answered yes to any of that, you are in the vast majority of modern humans. We tend to look at crooked teeth, overbites, crowded mouths as just a rite of passage, right?
Totally.
It's just bad luck in the genetic lottery.
Exactly. We think, well, my dad had a narrow jaw, so I have a narrow jaw. It's just my genes. But today, we are opening a case file that suggests that idea is completely wrong.
Oh, completely.
We are diving into a story that feels like a medical mystery thriller from the 1930s. It's a story about a man who looked into the mouths of thousands of people and saw a prophecy of the health crisis we are facing right now.
It really is a fascinating story. We are talking about the work of Dr. Weston Price. And honestly, calling him a dentist is a bit like calling Indiana Jones a professor.
Right. Technically true, but it just misses the entire adventure. This guy was a researcher, an explorer, and, arguably one of the most important anthropologists of the 20th century.
Right. This is the mystery of the crooked teeth. And our mission today is to unpack Dr. Price's massive body of work, specifically his book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, and the 11 principles of traditional diets that came out of it. We have a stack of research here from the Weston Price Foundation, modern analyses of his data, and a lot of chemistry to get through.
We do. And the central question we're trying to answer is a big one. Why have humans, who are supposedly the most evolved species on the planet, lost the ability to build bodies that fit their own parts? Yeah, why are our jaws shrinking?
Why are our jaws shrinking?
That's the hook. So let's set the scene. It's the early 1930s. Dr. Price is practicing in Cleveland, Ohio. He's a successful guy, highly respected. But he's becoming increasingly disturbed by what is walking into his office every single day. What specifically was freaking him out?
Well, Price was noticing a generational collapse. I mean, a complete collapse. He'd have a patient in their 50s or 60s come in, someone who grew up in the late 1800s, and they would have this wide, handsome jaw and maybe one or two cavities in their entire head. Then he'd see that patient's child, and the jaw was noticeably narrower, the teeth were crowded, maybe some decay.
Okay.
Then he'd see the grandchild, and the face was pinched, the nostrils were narrow, the teeth were just a chaotic mess of decay and crowding.
And most dentists would just see that as a business opportunity.
Yeah.
More cavities, more crooked teeth. I mean, that's job security.
Precisely. But Price was different. He was obsessed with the why. He had this really radical hypothesis for the time. He believed that physical perfection, and by that he meant structural integrity, wide dental arches, straight teeth, and resistance to disease, was our birthright.
Our birthright.
He didn't think nature made mistakes that often. He suspected this decline was a result of what he called nutritional injury.
Nutritional injury. I love that term.
Yeah.
It implies it's something being done to us, not just something that's happening randomly.
Yes.
It frames the body as a victim of a crime.
Exactly. He looked at the medical research of his time and he realized a fundamental flaw. Medicine focuses on sickness, it studies pathology, it studies the broken machine to figure out how to fix it.
Right.
Price said, if I want to understand health, I can't study sick people. I need to find people who are perfectly healthy. I need a control group.
Which is a massive problem, because in 1930s Cleveland, there were no control groups. Everyone was eating processed food, sugar, white flour. The industrial food system was already in full swing.
So he made a decision that changed nutritional history. He decided to turn the entire world into his laboratory.
Wow.
He shut down his practice and embarked on a 10-year journey. And we aren't talking about a luxury cruise or a guided tour. This guy trekked into the high Swiss Alps where there were no roads, the Outer Hebrides off the coast of Scotland, the deep bush in Africa, the Australian outback, the Amazon rainforest, and the Arctic Circle.
He was looking for the last humans on Earth who hadn't touched modern civilization.
He was looking for populations that were completely isolated. He wanted to find people who were still eating the sacred foods of their ancestors and had zero contact with what he called the displacing foods of modern commerce.
I love that phrase, displacing foods. It really highlights that these new foods push the good stuff out.
They displace them, exactly.
Okay, so let's dive into section 1. The Global Search for Health. I want to look at the evidence he found, because he brought back photographs that are honestly mind-blowing.
They are.
If you look at the show notes, or just Google Weston Price photos, you'll see what I mean. Let's start in the Swiss Alps, the Lodgental Valley.
This is a great place to start because it sounds like a fairy tale. This valley was accessible only by a steep footpath. In the winter, they were completely cut off from the rest of Switzerland by snow.
Wow, totally isolated.
Totally. Price gets up there, and he finds a population of about 2,000 people living exactly the way their ancestors had for centuries.
And what did they look like? Because when I think of Swiss villagers in the 30s, I might think of hardship, maybe, malnutrition.
Quite the opposite. They were stunning. Broad faces,
Yeah.
wide dental arches. And when we say wide dental arch, we mean the U-shape of the jaw is so broad that even the wisdom teeth come in straight.
Yeah, well,
There is actual space behind the molars.
I don't think I know anyone whose wisdom teeth came in straight. We treat wisdom teeth extraction like a standard medical procedure, like cutting the umbilical cord.
Exactly. But for these people, it wasn't an issue. And the decay rate, it was 0.3%.
0.3.
That means out of every 100 teeth he looked at, less than one had a cavity. And here's the kicker. These kids didn't own toothbrushes.
Come on.
They didn't have fluoride. Their teeth were often covered in a green slime from the food and lack of scrubbing. But when Price scraped it off, the enamel underneath was like diamond. It was impervious to decay.
Green slime but no cavities. That's going to be a hard sell for the Colgate marketing team. But the results speak for themselves. What were they eating? What was the fuel for this perfection?
It was incredibly simple. Their diet relied heavily on dense, whole rye bread that they baked in communal ovens.
Okay.
They ate meat about once a week. It wasn't a daily thing because the animals were too valuable for milk, so the bulk of their calories came from dairy. Lots and lots of raw milk, cream, and cheese. But specifically, dairy from cows grazing on the glacial slopes where the grass was incredibly rich in chlorophyll.
We're going to come back to that grass because that sounds like a clue for the chemistry later.
Yeah.
But the comparison he made here is crucial. He didn't just look at the isolated valley.
Yeah.
He hiked over the mountain to the modernized town, right?
Right. He goes to a town just a few miles away, but this town was connected by a road. That road meant trucks could bring in supplies.
The displacing foods.
The bakery in this town sold white bread, jams, marmalades, sugar, canned vegetables, and syrup.
And the difference in the people.
It was immediate and catastrophic. In the modernized town, tooth decay skyrocketed to 25% of all teeth.
25%. Up from 0.3.
Yep. The children had narrow faces. Their teeth were crowded, snaggletooth, overbites, underbites, and crucially, they had lost their immunity.
It's a huge point. In the isolated valley, Price noted that the children were often running barefoot in freezing glacial streams, yet nobody had tuberculosis. They were bulletproof.
In the modern town, the kids were bundled up, wearing scarves and boots, but TB was rampant.
Wow.
Price realized that the dental health was just a visible signal, like a check engine light for the total systemic health of the body.
If the teeth are rotting, the immune system is broken. Let's hop from the Alps to the Outer Hebrides, islands off the coast of Scotland. This environment is totally different. No dairy cows, no green pastures, just rocks, wind, and ocean. It's bleak.
It's a brutal environment. The people there lived in what were called black houses, basically stone huts with thatched roofs and no chimney.
No chimney.
No. The smoke from the peat fires just filled the room and seeped out through the roof. You'd think living in a smoke-filled hut would mean they'd all have lung disease and be frail.
But they weren't.
No. The ones eating the traditional diet were incredibly robust, and their diet is, well, it's not for the faint of heart. It's definitely not something you'll find on a modern brunch menu.
Tell us about the cod head. This is the detail that stuck with me.
So one of their staple dishes, considered a delicacy and a vital food for children, was baked cod's head.
Okay.
But they wouldn't just bake the head, they would stuff the head with chopped cod livers and oatmeal.
Wait. Stuffed with liver.
Chopped cod livers and oatmeal, yes.
It sounds like something from Fear Factor. Eat this cod head stuffed with liver.
It does to us. But think about the nutrient density. You have the fish head, which is full of gelatin and thyroid hormones from the glands. You have the liver, which is the most nutrient-dense part of the fish. And you have the oats.
So that was their whole diet.
That was their staple. Seafood and oat cakes. No fruit. No vegetables, really, aside from maybe some seaweed. And yet, perfect teeth. High immunity.
So we have healthy Swiss people eating mostly dairy and rye, Healthy Scots eating fish and oats. Now let's go to the Arctic. The Inuit and Eskimo populations. This is the one that really challenges the balanced plate idea we learned in school.
This was the ultimate test for Price. He found the Inuit living on a diet that had zero vegetation.
Zero.
Zero. No apples, no kale, no salads, no grains, just caribou, fish, seal oil, and blubber.
What about scurvy? We're taught that if you don't eat oranges for vitamin C, your teeth fall out and you die.
No scurvy. In fact, they had some of the best teeth in the world. Price found that they got their vitamin C from the adrenal glands of the moose.
From the organs.
And from fermenting certain parts of the fish. They ate the whole animal, including the organs which store vitamins we usually associate with plants.
And the women specifically, he noted something remarkable about childbirth in these communities.
Yes. In modern hospitals of the 1930s and even today, labor was becoming difficult. Women had narrow pelvises, labor was long, painful, and often required intervention. Among the Inuit on the traditional diet, Price observed that the women gave birth quickly, easily, and recovered almost immediately. The babies were sturdy and alert from day one.
It really challenges the narrative. We're often told that meat is bad or fat is bad, but here is a population thriving on almost nothing else.
And it wasn't just cold climates. He went to Africa and compared the Maasai, who are famous warriors, very tall, to the Kikuyu.
Okay.
The Maasai diet was milk, meat, and blood, very high animal fat. The Kikuyu were agriculturalists. They ate corn, beans, tubers, sweet potatoes.
So it's the vegetarians versus the carnivores. Who won the health contest?
Well, Price was pretty objective, but the physical exam didn't lie. The Maasai were taller, stronger, and had virtually no cavities. The Kikuyu were less robust and had more decay, though still, better than modern Americans.
Still better than us, right?
Price concluded that while you could survive on a plant-based diet, optimal physical development, that perfection he was looking for, required animal inputs.
I want to bring up the two brothers example because skeptics listening might say, well, maybe the Swiss just have good genes, or the Inuit are genetically adapted to cold.
Price anticipated that objection. He knew people would scream genetics, and the two brothers' case is the smoking gun. He would literally find families where there were two brothers. One chose to stay in the traditional village eating the old way. The other moved to the port city or the commercial center and adopted the white man's diet of canned food and sugar.
And the result was visible on their faces.
The village brother, broad face, perfect teeth, healthy. The city brother, rampant decay, maybe suffering from arthritis or TB. But the most damning part is the city brother's children. They were born with the narrow faces, the dental crowding, the pinched nostrils.
That proves it's environmental. If it were genetic, the City Brothers kids would look like him. They would have his good genes.
Right.
But they didn't. They looked like the food they were built from.
Exactly. Price realized that the human body is plastic. It is molded by the materials you give it to build with. If you give it poor materials, sugar, white flour, vegetable oils, you get a shoddy building.
A shoddy building.
You get a jaw that is physically too small to hold the teeth. You get a nasal cavity that is too narrow, leading to mouth breathing and asthma.
So we've established the what. The traditional diets, whether Swiss cheese, seal oil, or cod heads, produce superior humans. Now we need the why. This leads us to section 2, the nutritional secret sauce.
The chemistry.
The chemistry. Price was a scientist. He didn't just look, he took samples. He brought food back to Cleveland, jars of butter, dried fish, and ran the numbers in his lab. What did he find?
This is the mathematical difference that explains everything. He analyzed thousands of samples, and he found a consistent ratio. Regardless of whether the diet was high carb, like the Swiss, or zero carb, like the Inuit, the traditional diets contained 4 times the water-soluble vitamins and minerals compared to the standard American diet of the 1930s.
4 times the calcium, 4 times the phosphorus. That's significant.
It is. If you think about building a house, you have 4 times the bricks and lumber. But the real shocker was the fat-soluble vitamins.
Why?
Vitamin A and vitamin D. The traditional diets contained 10 times the amount found in the American diet.
10 times. That is an order of magnitude. That's not just a little boost. That is a completely different fuel source.
It is massive, and this led Price to a discovery that baffled him for a while. He found a substance in the fat, specifically in the butter fat of cows eating that rapidly growing green grass, and in fish eggs that he couldn't identify.
He didn't know what it was.
He didn't. It wasn't vitamin A, and it wasn't vitamin D, so he called it Activator X.
Your X factor.
Right.
Sounds like a superhero serum.
It acted like one. Price observed that this Activator X was a catalyst. You could have all the calcium in the world. You could eat chalk all day. But if you didn't have activator X, your body couldn't use it.
It's like having a pile of bricks, the calcium, and a construction crew, vitamin A and D, but no blueprint.
Or no foreman to shout orders.
Oh,
For decades, activator X was a mystery, but modern research has finally identified it.
and it is.
It is vitamin K2.
K2. Okay, I feel like I hear about vitamin D all the time, and vitamin A is in carrots, but K2 is barely mentioned. What does it actually do?
This is crucial to understand. Vitamin D helps you absorb calcium from your gut into your blood. Great.
Okay, so it gets it into the system.
But once the calcium is in your blood, where does it go? It doesn't know. It might go into your arteries and cause plaque. It might go into your kidneys and cause stones.
So vitamin D opens the door, but K2 directs traffic.
Precisely. K2 activates a protein called osteocalcin, which grabs the calcium and shoves it into the bone and teeth. It also activates another protein called matrix GLA protein, which sweeps calcium out of your soft tissues.
So without K2, you get the paradox of modern health.
Yeah.
Osteoporosis, weak bones, and atherosclerosis, calcified arteries, in the same person.
Exactly. You're calcifying your soft parts and decaying your hard parts. And Price found that this activator X was the key to those broad faces.
The actual facial structure.
Yes. If a developing child doesn't have enough K2, the facial bones simply don't grow wide enough. The blueprint isn't executed.
And where do we find this magic K2? If I want broad cheekbones, what do I eat?
It's in the fat. Goose liver, fish eggs, egg yolks, butter oil. But, and this is the catch, it has to be from animals raised on pasture.
Ah, there's that green grass again.
There's the green grass. Rapidly growing green grass is what allows the cow to produce the precursor for K2.
So a feedlot cow eating corn and soy.
Very little K2. The fat might look the same, but the X factor is missing. This explains why the Swiss revered the June butter. They knew intuitively that the butter made when the grass was greenest had special healing properties. They actually saved it for the sick and the elderly.
They treated it like medicine.
They treated it like medicine.
It's amazing. They didn't have microscopes,
Yeah.
but they had observation over centuries. And just a quick note on vitamin A, because you mentioned carrots earlier. There is a misconception there, right?
Huge misconception. Price was very clear on this. Plants like carrots or sweet potatoes contain carotenes, beta-carotene. These are precursors to vitamin A.
Okay.
Your body has to convert them into retinol, which is true vitamin A. But that conversion is very inefficient, especially for children or people with gut issues.
So you're not getting much bang for your buck.
Not at all. True vitamin A retinol only comes from animal sources. The traditional peoples were getting the real deal in massive quantities.
This brings us to a pretty spicy topic in Section 3. The myth of vegetarianism. Price actually went looking for a vegetarian culture, didn't he?
He did. He mentions in the book that he had heard rumors and had hoped to find a culture that was healthy and exclusively vegetarian, perhaps because it would be morally simpler or cheaper. He states very clearly he did not find one.
That's a definitive statement from a guy who went everywhere.
Every single healthy group he studied went to great lengths to obtain animal foods, and specifically animal fats.
We've been trained for the last 40 years to trim the fat. Boneless, skinless chicken breast. Egg white omelets. We think fat is the enemy.
And Price would say that is a recipe for disaster. In fact, he noted that indigenous peoples avoided lean meat.
Avoided it.
In North America, the native hunters would kill a moose. If the moose was too lean, say at the end of a harsh winter, and it didn't have a thick slab of back fat, they would often leave it or feed the lean meat to the dogs.
They would throw away the steak.
Yeah.
That seems insane to a modern person.
Because they knew about rabbit starvation.
Explain that. It sounds horrific.
It is. If you eat only lean protein like rabbit, which is very lean, without enough fat or carbs to balance it, your liver gets overwhelmed by the nitrogen in the protein. You can develop diarrhea, headaches, lassitude. Historical accounts describe explorers dying of starvation while their stomachs were full of lean meat.
So the body actually needs fat to process the protein.
Correct. You need the fat to metabolize the protein. And the most prized parts of the animal weren't the muscles, it was the organs. The liver, the marrow, the tongue, the glands.
The stuff we throw away or turn into dog food.
Exactly. The Norse tribe in Africa believed the liver was so sacred it couldn't be touched by human hands. They had special spears to handle it. They ate it raw or lightly cooked.
And liver is just, what, a vitamin powerhouse.
It's basically nature's multivitamin. It has more vitamin A, B12, and iron than any other food on the planet.
But hold on, I have to play devil's advocate here. What about heart disease? What about cholesterol? We're talking about populations eating massive amounts of saturated fat seal blubber, butter, lard. Didn't they all drop dead of heart attacks?
That's the paradox that modern nutrition struggles with. Price found zero evidence of heart disease in these populations.
Zero.
No heart attacks, no stroke. The Weston Price Foundation argues that the demonization of saturated fat is a mistake.
What's their defense? Because we are told saturated fat clogs the pipes.
They point out that saturated fats make up 50% of our cell membranes. They give our cells stiffness and integrity.
Okay.
If you replace those stable fats with unstable vegetable oils, polyunsaturated fats like corn oil or soybean oil, your cell walls become floppy and prone to oxidation.
Oxidation means inflammation.
Right. The argument is that we swapped stable ancestral fats, butter, tallow, lard, for industrial processed oils, and that is when the heart disease epidemic began.
I see.
The indigenous people had plenty of saturated fat, but no industrial oils and no sugar, and their hearts were fine.
It's a compelling correlation.
Yeah.
Okay, so they ate animals, but they also ate plants. They ate grains, seeds, nuts. But Section 4 is about the art of preparation. They weren't just grabbing a handful of raw almonds or eating a bowl of cold muesli.
This is a huge misconception. We think whole grains are healthy, so we should just eat them, however. But traditional cultures understood something we've forgotten. Seeds are dormant life.
Right.
A seed doesn't want to be eaten. It wants to grow into a plant, so it has chemical defenses to stop animals from eating it.
Chemical defenses, like poison.
Mildly, yes. Things like phytic acid, enzyme inhibitors, and lectins. Let's talk about phytic acid. It's found in the bran of grains and the skin of nuts. It is an anti-nutrient.
That sounds bad.
It is. Phytic acid locks onto minerals in your gut. It binds to zinc, calcium, iron, and magnesium. So imagine you eat a bowl of whole wheat pasta. The label says it has 10% of your daily iron. But the phytic acid in that wheat binds to the iron and prevents you from absorbing it. You poop it out.
So you're eating the mineral, but you aren't getting the mineral. It's a thief.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you eat a high-grain diet without proper preparation, you can actually develop mineral deficiencies like anemia or bone loss.
So how did the ancients solve this? They didn't have labs to tell them about phytic acid.
They used time. They used soaking, sprouting, and fermenting.
Give us an example.
Take bread. Today, most bread is made with fast-acting yeast. It rises in 30 minutes. It's baked and sold. The phytic acid and gluten are still fully intact. It's hard to digest.
Not traditional bread.
Sourdough, real sourdough. You mix flour and water and let it sit. Wild yeast and lactobacillus bacteria from the air colonize it. It ferments for 24, 48 hours.
And what does the bacteria do?
The bacteria eat the sugar. They break down the phytic acid. They even break down the gluten. They basically pre-digest the grain for you.
That's why some people who can't eat Wonder Bread can eat real sourdough without bloating.
Exactly. There are studies showing celiac patients in Italy tolerating long fermented sourdough. Price saw this everywhere.
Everywhere.
The Ethiopians fermented teff for injera. The Scots fermented oats. The Mexicans fermented corn for pozole. They never ate the seed raw.
Contrast that with a modern breakfast cereal, the extrusion process.
Oh, it's violent. To make those little flakes or O's, they create a slurry of grain and force it through a tiny hole at high heat and high pressure.
That sounds pretty industrial.
This destroys the nutrients and denatures the proteins. It makes the protein shape weird, which the body recognizes as a toxin or an allergen.
So we're paying a premium for heart-healthy cereal that is actually a toxic, nutrient-dead slurry.
That's the argument. It's the opposite of the slow, gentle fermentation process. It's fast, cheap, and biologically damaging.
This leads right into Section 5, raw foods and enzymes. We talked about cooking, but Price noticed that all these cultures kept some things raw.
Yes. While no culture was 100% raw vegan, they all cooked their meats and tubers. All cultures ate some animal proteins raw. Raw milk, raw cheese, raw fish like sashimi, or raw meat dishes like steak tartare or kibbeh.
Why was raw so important?
Enzymes. Enzymes are the spark plugs of the body. They make chemical reactions happen. Cooking destroys enzymes. Completely destroys them. If you eat only cooked food, your pancreas has to work overtime to produce enough enzymes to digest it. This stresses the body.
So eating raw food is like giving your pancreas a vacation.
In a way. And specifically, raw milk. This is a big controversy. The FDA says raw milk is dangerous. Price's followers say pasteurized milk is dead.
What's the science there?
When you pasteurize milk heat to kill bacteria, You do kill the pathogens, yes, but you also destroy the enzyme lactase.
Lactase breaks down lactose, milk sugar.
Right, so if you kill the lactase, your body has to do all the work. That's why so many people are lactose intolerant today. They can't digest the sugar because the enzyme that comes with the milk is gone.
So they might not be intolerant to milk, but intolerant to pasteurized milk.
Many people find they can drink raw milk just fine because it helps digest itself.
And Price also talked about something called the Woolsen factor.
Yes, the anti-stiffness factor found in raw cream and butter. It protects against calcification of the joints, arthritis, and hardening of the arteries. It is destroyed by pasteurization. Price used high-vitamin raw butter to treat people with pain and stiffness.
It seems like every time we try to use technology to make food safer or more convenient, we strip out the magic.
That is the recurring theme. We trade vitality for shelf life.
Let's talk about two things that are in every traditional kitchen but missing from many modern ones. Section 6, salt and bone broth.
Salt is another victim of bad PR. We're told salt causes high blood pressure, but Price found these healthy people prize salt. However, it was unrefined salt.
What is the difference between Morton's table salt and, say, Celtic sea salt?
Night and day. Modern table salt is mined, dissolved, stripped of all minerals except sodium and chloride, heated to high temperatures, and bleached.
Yikes.
Then they add anti-caking agents, which often contain aluminum.
Aluminum in our salt's great.
Unrefined salt, like the gray salt from France or pink Himalayan salt, is just dried ocean water. It contains over 90 trace minerals: magnesium, potassium, iodine, selenium. It's a complex mineral package.
And the body needs it.
Desperately. You need salt to produce hydrochloric acid in your stomach. If you have acid reflux, it might actually be because you have low stomach acid from a low-salt diet.
No way.
You also need it for your adrenals to function and to fire your neurons.
And the stock pot, bone broth.
If you walk into a traditional home, whether in France, China, or South America, there is always a pot simmering. They didn't waste the bones, they boiled them for days. This extracts the collagen and gelatin.
Collagen is trendy now for wrinkles, but it does more than that.
It heals the gut. Gelatin is hydrophilic. It loves water. It attracts digestive juices to the food in your stomach. It makes digestion easier. It heals the lining of the intestines. It's basically the glue that holds our bodies together.
So we've rebuilt the diet. Fats, organs, properly prepared grains, raw dairy, salt, broth. But Section 7 is the part that really stopped me in my tracks. This wasn't just about keeping the adults healthy. It was about the future. Sacred foods for future generations.
This is the most profound part of Price's work. He found that these primitive people had a better understanding of genetics, or rather epigenetics, than we do. They understood that you don't start feeding a baby when it's born. You start feeding it months before it's conceived.
It was a deliberate program.
Yes. Both parents, mother and father, would undergo a period of special nutrition before marriage or conception. They were given the sacred foods.
Give us the list. What were the baby-making foods?
Fish eggs, roe, were huge. In the Andes, Price noted that villagers would hike hundreds of miles to the sea to get dried fish eggs for the young women.
Wow.
Liver, deep yellow butter, bone marrow. Basically, they were hyperloading the body with those fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K2.
They were building up the stockpile so the baby could be built with the best materials.
Exactly. There's a funny anecdote about the bear diet. An American colonist recorded that the local Indian fathers would go on a bear diet, eating mostly bear fat, for weeks before attempting conception.
For virility.
They knew that fat fuels the hormonal system and ensures virility.
And on the flip side, the Weston A. Price Foundation has a pretty stark warning for vegetarians here.
They do. Sally Fallon, the president of the foundation, argues that a vegan diet during the preconception and pregnancy phase is dangerous.
Dangerous.
She cites the lack of B12, true vitamin A, and zinc. These deficiencies can lead to the very deformities Price was seeing: narrow jaws, club feet, neurological issues. She calls it experimenting on your children.
And they also practice child spacing.
They did. They would space children 3 or 4 years apart, not because they hated diapers, but to allow the mother to replenish her nutrient stores.
Ah, that makes sense.
A baby takes a massive toll on the mother's mineral reserves. It literally takes calcium from her bones if there isn't enough in the diet. If you have babies back-to-back, the second and third child get the leftovers. They're physically less robust.
It's humbling. We think of these people as savages or uneducated, but they were essentially genetic engineers. They were architecting their children through food.
They were. And we, with all our science, are rolling the dice with Pop-Tarts and multivitamins.
So let's bring this home. Conclusion and modern application. We look around today, and Price's prophecy has come true.
It has. We see the legacy of displaced foods everywhere. The dental issues are just the start. We have an epidemic of allergies, asthma, autoimmune diseases, infertility, and mental health issues in children.
There's a concept mentioned in the research called Pottinger's cats. I think this illustrates the danger perfectly. Can you explain that study?
Francis Pottinger was a contemporary of Price. He did a 10-year study on cats. He fed one group raw meat and raw milk, the traditional diet.
Okay.
He fed the other group cooked meat and pasteurized milk, the modern diet.
And what happened?
The raw group thrived generation after generation, perfect health. The cooked group started to degenerate. In the first generation, they had some health issues. In the second, they had dental narrowing and behavioral problems. They became aggressive or lethargic.
Oh, why?
By the third generation, they lost the ability to reproduce. They became sterile.
That is terrifying. And Price was seeing the human version of this.
We are currently in the third or fourth generation of the experiment of modern commerce. The infertility rates we are seeing today, the chronic disease. It matches Pottinger's findings perfectly.
We are the third generation cats.
We are the third generation cats.
But, and we have to end on hope here, Price believes this is reversible. We aren't doomed.
No. The body is forgiving. If you start providing the right building blocks, the body can repair. You might not widen your jaw once you're an adult, but you can restore your bone density, your immunity, and your energy.
And your children's health.
And you can definitely change the outcome for your children.
So what are the practical steps? If someone is listening to this and wants to opt out of the degeneration, what do they do?
It's about returning to the 11 principles. 1, eat nose to tail. Stop fearing fat and organs if you can't stomach a plate of liver.
Which is most people.
Which is most people, yes. Chop it up tiny and hide it in your meatballs or chili. Take desiccated liver pills. Just get the nutrients in.
Okay. What's number 2?
2, swap your fats. Throw out the canola, corn, and soybean oil today. Cook with butter, ghee, coconut oil, tallow, or lard.
Yep.
3, respect your grains. If you eat bread, find a real sourdough bakery. Soak your oatmeal overnight in yogurt or water with a little lemon juice. 4, incorporate fermented foods, a forkful of sauerkraut with dinner, some kimchi with your eggs.
The small change?
Small changes. 5, upgrade your salt. Get the gray stuff or the pink stuff. And 6, bone broth. Make a soup once a week.
It sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like cooking.
It is. It's a lifestyle change. It's a rejection of convenience culture. But the payout is vitality. It's feeling human again.
I want to touch on one final nuance. The blue zones. We always hear about these places where people live to be 100, and the media usually spins it as they eat plants.
Christ would look at the blue zones, like Sardinia or Icaria, and point out what they actually eat. They eat high-fat goat and sheep dairy. They eat fatty pork. They eat organ meats. The longevity isn't because they avoid animal foods. It's because their animal foods are high-quality, glass-fed, and traditional. And crucially, they don't eat processed junk.
It's about quality and context, not just meat versus plants.
Exactly.
So the final philosophy here is really about technology versus nature.
Price's argument is that technology gives us the appearance of health. We have braces to straighten the crooked teeth. We have surgery to remove the tonsils. We have pills to lower the blood pressure.
Right.
But that isn't health. That is damage control.
Real health is not needing the braces in the first place.
Exactly. Physical perfection is your birthright.
Mm-hmm.
We just stopped giving our bodies the blueprint.
That is a massive download, but it's empowering. We aren't victims of our bad genes. We are the architects of our bodies.
Well said.
So here is my challenge to you, the listener. Next time you look in the mirror, look at your teeth. Don't judge them, just read them. What are they telling you about your history? And for this week, I dare you to try one sacred food. Maybe it's buying a block of raw cheese. Maybe it's finding a real sourdough loaf. Or maybe, just maybe, you get brave and fry up some chicken livers with bacon and onions.
It's actually delicious if you use enough bacon.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.
Stay healthy.